Serial killers, evil spirits, and plenty of giant explosions. These are the flicks that you won't want to miss in 2023. Warning, this video contains fast, flashing images. Viewer discretion is advised, especially for those with photosensitive epilepsy. Like his previous film Old, which is based on a Swiss graphic novel, M. Night Shyamalan will turn to some interesting source material for his next film. In the summer of 2022, it was revealed that Knock at the Cabin, Shyamalan's upcoming thriller, is based on Paul Tremblay's horror novel, The Cabin at the End of the World. Though we don't yet know how Shyamalan's version of the tale will twist the narrative, The Cabin at the End of the World follows a couple and their daughter as they're set upon by a group of mysterious armed strangers at their secluded cabin. The invaders claim that one member of this small family must be sacrificed in order to save the world, leading to a tense standoff with unimaginable consequences. Shyamalan's film stars Jonathan Groff, Ben Aldridge, and Kristen Sway as the family in danger, along with Dave Bautista, Rupert Grint, Nikki Amuka Bird, and Abby Quinn as the home invaders. Expect to see some truly chilling horror when Knock at the Cabin arrives February 3rd, 2023. The MCU's multiverse saga began with Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but things are about to get deadly serious in the upcoming Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This time around, Scott Lang and his allies will team up to face Kang the Conqueror, a multiversal time-traveling villain played by Lovecraft country star Jonathan Majors. Majors first played the role in the form of a character dubbed simply He Who Remains at the end of Loki Season 1. And now, he's returning to play another variant of the mysterious adversary. Exactly what Kang wants and how Scott will end up facing him is still a mystery. What's not a mystery is that our heroes will definitely be spending a lot of time in the quantum realm, where they'll run into a character played by Bill Murray. One of Marvel's weirdest villains, the evil, oversized head called MODOK, will also be showing up. We'll find out exactly what happens next when Quantumania hits theaters on February 17th, 2023.
See you soon.
Back in 2015, the world of Rocky Balboa expanded with Creed, in which the legendary boxer decides to coach the son of his late friend and rival. Starring Michael B. Jordan as Adonis Creed, the Ryan Coogler-directed sports drama was a major success, earning Sylvester Stallone his first Golden Globe. In 2023, the Creed franchise is set to continue with its third installment, building on the first sequel in which Adonis fought the son of Ivan Drago. This time around, Jordan himself will also be stepping into the director's seat, giving him even more ownership of the sub-franchise he helped launch. Tessa Thompson and Phylicia Rashad will also return as Adonis's girlfriend and stepmother respectively, but one person who won't be back is Stallone himself. With Rocky Balboa's journey seemingly wrapped up at the end of Creed 2, it looks like the Italian Stallion is done, at least for now. Across from Jordan in the ring will be Jonathan Majors, who will serve as a new antagonist for the series. Adonis will enter the ring once again when Creed 3 drops on March 3rd, 2023. Dungeons & Dragons has long been one of the biggest names in fantasy, so it makes sense that a new attempt at an adaptation of the franchise will be reaching cinemas in 2023. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, from Game Night writers John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, looks like it has the makings of a clever fantasy adventure. Honor Among Thieves will follow a group of, well, thieves as they set out to stop an apocalyptic event that they inadvertently caused by stealing a dangerous artifact. Going on this quest will be actors Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Sophia Lillis, Justin Smith, and Regé-Jean Page. Of course, plenty of iconic creatures from the role-playing game will be making appearances, from owlbears to mimics to gelatinous cubes. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves sneaks into theaters also on March 3rd, 2023. In the spring of 2023, 4 years after Shazam burst into theaters, we'll finally get a sequel from many of the same people who made the first film so fun. At the end of 2019's Shazam, Billy Batson gained a family of heroes to help him in his quest to save the world.
Say my name.
Billy!
No, not my name. No, say the name that I say to turn into this guy.
Shazam!
Now, the world is threatened again, and the family will face a challenge unlike anything they've seen before. Instead of a mad scientist, Shazam and friends will face off against the Daughters of Atlas, played by Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, and Rachel Zegler. Many of the original players from the first film are also back for the second installment, including Jack Dylan Grazer as Freddie Freeman and Jaimin Hansu as the Wizard Shazam. We can expect another epic good time, but don't yet know how this film will connect with Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam, another major player in the Shazam saga. Regardless, Shazam! Fury of the Gods hits theaters on March 17th, 2023.
How good to see you again so soon, Mr. Wick. Shall I announce you?
Yes, please.
We were supposed to get the fourth chapter of the John Wick saga back in 2021, but the COVID-19 pandemic pushed things back a bit. Now we know that the spring of 2023 will finally bring us the next phase of the assassin's ever-growing story. We don't know all that much about where Chapter 4 will take John so far, other than the clues left by the end of Chapter 3. We do know, of course, that Keanu Reeves will return in the title role, along with Ian McShane as Winston, Lance Reddick as Sharon, and Lawrence Fishburne as the Bowery King. Newcomers to the John Wick universe include Donnie Yen, Clancy Brown, Bill Skarsgård, Rina Sawayama, and Hiroyuki Sanada. John Wick will return when Chapter 4 hits theaters on March 24th, 2023. A decade away from the box office didn't stop the fifth installment of the Scream franchise from being a box office hit. It wasn't long before a sixth film was announced. We don't know much about Scream 6 just yet, but filmmakers have revealed that Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Jasmine Savoy Brown, and Mason Gooding will all reprise their roles from the 2022 requel. They'll be joined by franchise mainstay Courtney Cox and Scream 4's Hayden Panettiere. Sadly, the biggest star of the franchise, Neve Campbell, will not be returning as Sidney Prescott after a pay dispute. It'll be strange to lose Sidney, but Samara Weaving and Tony Revolori will be there to round out the cast in her absence. Scream 6 will be unleashed on March 31st, 2023. After the Dark Universe experiment failed with The Mummy in 2017, Universal Pictures set out to craft a new approach to its classic movie monsters, giving us films like The Invisible Man in the process. Now they're taking some of their characters down a very different route with Renfield, a movie about one of the most famous sidekicks in horror history. Directed by Chris McKay and starring Nicholas Hoult in the title role, Renfield will tell the story of Count Dracula's servant, who gets a new lease on life and a chance at his own agency when he falls in love with a traffic cop and sets off on an unlikely journey. If that doesn't sound fun enough, Renfield will feature the one and only Nicolas Cage playing Count Dracula, a dream role for the legendary actor. Renfield arrives in all its vampiric glory on April 14th, 2023. A decade after the Evil Dead franchise got a reboot film from director Fede Alvarez, Sam Raimi's Deadites are set to once again rampage through movie theaters in Evil Dead Rise. This time around, the action will move to a Los Angeles apartment building, where a reunion between two sisters is interrupted by an ancient book unleashing the Deadites. The film marks the first time an Evil Dead film will take things to a more urban setting, which should be an interesting change of pace. Writer-director Lee Cronin is responsible for this new take on the franchise. Now with Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell acting as executive producers, it's time to see what Cronin can do with the Deadites. Evil Dead Rise invades theaters on April 21st, 2023.
Groovy.
James Gunn said back in 2017 that he would be back for a third installment in the Guardians of the Galaxy series, but we didn't know then that the wait would be this long. It's been a bit of a bumpy road. Gunn was fired and eventually rehired by Marvel, but now Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 seems to finally be on course. A sneak peek at San Diego Comic-Con 2022 teased tension between Star-Lord and Gamora, as well as an origin story for Rocket Raccoon. In addition to all the usual suspects, Volume 3 will also feature Maria Bakalova as Cosmo the Space Dog, Will Poulter as Adam Warlock, and Shikuti Iwuji as the High Evolutionary. The Guardians of the Galaxy will return for the MCU's first ever holiday special on Disney Plus during the 2022 Christmas season. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will follow in theaters a few months later on May 5th, 2023. The Fast Saga has been an unstoppable franchise juggernaut for years now. But things are finally starting to slow down when it comes to the story's main characters. The upcoming 10th and 11th installments in the series will wrap up the story of the Toretto family and their exciting exploits. The usual major players are back for the penultimate installment in the series, including Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Chris Ludacris Bridges, Jordana Brewster, and Sung Kang. They'll be joined by more recent franchise additions like John Cena and Charlize Theron. In terms of newcomers, the film will also feature Jason Momoa, Brie Larson, and Rita Moreno in key roles. It's also the first Fast outing for director Louis Leterrier, who replaced Justin Lin midway through production.
Yeah, it just got bigger.
Fast X speeds into theaters on May 19th, 2023. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is one of the most acclaimed superhero films of the past decade, a major animated hit for Sony Pictures that won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature and set up a whole multiverse of new possibilities for its sequel. In 2023, we'll finally get to see it for ourselves. Like the first film, the sequel will feature Miles Morales, Peter B. Parker, and Gwen Stacy teaming up as spider-themed heroes to save the world. But this time around, they'll be getting some new friends and enemies. Oscar Isaac has returned to play Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, a character introduced in a post-credit scene in the first film. Issa Rae has also joined the film as Jessica Drew, more commonly known as Spider-Woman, while Jason Schwartzman will play the Spider-Man villain known as The Spot. Across the Spider-Verse swings into theaters on June 2nd, 2023, and will be followed up by Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse in 2024. The Transformers movie franchise just keeps on transforming. Over a decade has passed since Michael Bay launched the live-action adaptation of the world's favorite robots in disguise, but the Autobots and Decepticons keep finding new ways to make it back to the big screen. In 2023, they'll do it for the 7th time, and this time, they'll be joined by the Maximals. Transformers Rise of the Beasts is a 90-set story that will introduce elements of the popular Beast Wars storyline. This time around, we'll head to Brooklyn, where Optimus Prime will encounter some new faces and face off against the vicious Terrorcons. The Autobots won't be alone in the fight. They'll have the Maximals, transforming robots who become animals, along for the ride for the first time, with Ron Perlman voicing the aptly named Optimus Primal. It's a whole new frontier of Transformers movie storytelling, and it arrives on June 9th, 2023. A movie version of The Flash has been in the works for over a decade at this point, long enough for the character to get a whole different life on the CW. After a long list of screenwriters and directors moved through the project without completing it, the long-awaited DC Comics film starring Ezra Miller will finally land in 2023. We don't know much about the plot of The Flash yet, but we do know that it'll feature the DC multiverse and bring back the Batman played by Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton. We'll also see a new live-action version of Supergirl played by Sasha Calle, setting the stage for even more spin-off potential. That's not what actually has people talking about the movie, though.
I know we're all thinking the same thing right now. Who's gonna say it? I'm not gonna say it.
The Flash has made news more recently not for its supporting cast or director Andy Muschietti's vision, but for Miller's erratic behavior and frequent run-ins with police. Now the question is how Warner Bros. Deals with those issues in the lead-up to the film's impending release. No matter the circumstances, it looks like we'll see The Flash hit the ground running on June 23rd, 2023. 15 years after he last appeared in a feature film, Indiana Jones will return to the big screen for what's likely to be the final time starring Harrison Ford. It's been in development for years, but the still untitled 5th Indiana Jones film is finally on track. Although director Steven Spielberg will still be on board as a producer, Indy 5 marks the first time that the Oscar winner hasn't directed. He turned that honor over to Logan Helmer James Mangold, who also co-wrote the script. Harrison Ford, who turned 80 years old in 2022, will be joined by Mads Mikkelsen, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Antonio Banderas, Boyd Holbrook, and more. Not only will Harrison Ford almost certainly be hanging up the hat and whip, but composer John Williams has suggested that he might retire after writing the score for Indy 5. It'll be an epic return for Indy, but it might also be a farewell to two of the most influential figures in film history. Indiana Jones 5 rolls into theaters on June 30th, 2023. The Mission Impossible films have defied the odds by getting bigger and better with each installment. Tom Cruise first played Ethan Hunt way back in 1996, and since then, he's made the character into a kind of superhero, taking on increasingly daring real-life stunts along the way. Now we're about to get the biggest Mission Impossible yet. The 7th film in the series will once again team Cruise with director Christopher McQuarrie, the mastermind behind the previous 2 Mission Impossibles. Franchise mainstays Rebecca Ferguson, Ving Rhames, Vanessa Kirby, and Simon Pegg will be along for the ride, along with series newcomers Haley Atwell, Pom Klementieff, and Holt McCallany. Hunt's mission will tackle a global conspiracy and redefine the very nature of truth in the public eye. In 2022, Cruise revealed that the film is subtitled Dead Reckoning Part 1, setting up a 2-part adventure that won't properly conclude until 2024.
What's done is done, when we say it's done.
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 finally arrives July 14th, 2023. Christopher Nolan films are events unto themselves nowadays, as Nolan uses every ounce of the clout he won through his Batman blockbusters to make grand-scale films that he might not otherwise get the chance to tackle. In September 2021, Nolan revealed that his next project would be Oppenheimer, a film about legendary scientist J. Robert Oppenheimer and his work creating the first atomic bombs. Cillian Murphy, who worked with Nolan on the Dark Knight trilogy and Inception, will play the title character during his years in the Manhattan Project. Meanwhile, the film's massive supporting cast will include Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Florence Pugh, Rami Malek, Benny Safdie, Josh Hartnett, Dane DeHaan, Jack Quaid, Matthew Modine, Alden Ehrenreich, Kenneth Branagh, David Dastmalchian, Jason Clarke, and many, many more. Oppenheimer will blow up the box office on July 21st, 2023. Oppenheimer isn't the only star-studded blockbuster that'll be hitting theaters on July 21st. Despite being based on the brand of dolls for young girls, 2023's Barbie is gathering buzz thanks to the sheer number of talented people involved. Oscar nominee Greta Gerwig stepped up to direct and co-write the film alongside her partner, fellow Oscar nominee Noah Baumbach. When Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling were announced as the future Barbie and Ken, the internet started to get really excited. We still don't know all that much about the plot of Barbie, but set photos suggest a neon-colored aesthetic inspired by the 1990s. Robbie and Gosling will be joined by a spectacular supporting cast, including Simu Liu, America Ferrera, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Hari Nef, Michael Cera, and Will Ferrell. Phase 4 of the MCU has been an interesting project so far, as it's used both feature films and its streaming shows on Disney Plus to introduce new characters and concepts. Now, one of the big payoffs for these introductions is almost here. Directed by Nia DaCosta, The Marvels will unite Carol Danvers with her best friend's daughter, Monica Rambeau, and the newly minted Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan.
My costume is near perfect, just pending the final flourish.
Still trying to think of that flourish.
It'll come to me any second now.
Beyond the cast, which also includes Samuel L. Jackson returning as Nick Fury, we don't know much about the film's plot just yet. Of course, Carol, Monica, and Kamala have a lot of shared comic book history, so we can't wait to see some sparks fly when The Marvels arrives on July 28th, 2023. In the summer of 2023, the DCEU will get one of their most interesting new additions yet, the fan favorite Blue Beetle. Directed by Angel Manuel Soto, the film will star Xolo Maridueña as Jaime Reyes, a teenager from El Paso who encounters an alien artifact that takes the form of a mysterious blue scarab. When he interacts with it, it fits to his body and grants him an alien exosuit with extraordinary powers, turning him into the superhero known as Blue Beetle. Alongside Maridueña are co-stars Harvey Guillen, Bruna Marquezine, George Lopez, and Raul Max Trujillo. Plus, Susan Sarandon will be starring as a new villain created specifically for the film. Blue Beetle flies into theaters August 18th, 2023. It's been nearly a decade since The Conjuring arrived in theaters, and the franchise shows no signs of slowing down. In addition to the 3 films in the main Conjuring series, several spin-off movies have now developed into sub-franchises of their own, most notably the Evil Doll series Annabelle. Now yet another Conjuring offshoot is set to move into sequel territory. In 2023, Warner Bros. Will release The Nun 2, a continuation of the saga of the demonic spirit Valak. Taissa Farmiga is expected to return for the sequel as Sister Irene, a woman battling evil in mid-20th century Europe, while Bonnie Aarons will once again play the evil nun. Director Michael Shavs will helm the film, and Malignant writer Akilah Cooper will handle scripting duties. Valak will be back in time for the 2023 Halloween season, arriving on September 8th of that year. Ever since Venom dropped in 2018, Sony Pictures has been slowly building a Marvel universe of their own. In 2023, we'll get 2 new installments in that budding franchise, beginning with Kraven the Hunter, the first big-screen take on the title character. Discussed as a possible Spider-Man movie villain as far back as the Sam Raimi days, Kraven is a hunter who travels the world, taking down the deadliest game on the planet. That eventually leads him to Spider-Man, a powerful adversary who Kraven sees as the ultimate prey. The new version of the character may not face off against Spider-Man, but he'll be portrayed by former Avenger Aaron Taylor Johnson. Alongside him will be Ariana DeBose as Calypso, Christopher Abbott as Foreigner, and Fred Heckinger as Kraven's half-brother Chameleon. Alessandro Nivola and Russell Crowe are also slated to star. Kraven the Hunter will be on the prowl starting October 6th, 2023. After reinvigorating the Halloween franchise with his 2018 Legacy sequel, director David Gordon Green is turning his attention to another iconic horror series. In 2020, Green was announced as the director for a new installment in the Exorcist franchise, setting the stage for a story that will build on the original film's tale of a young girl possessed by a frightening evil. Screen legend Ellen Burstyn will return to play Chris MacNeil, the mother of the young girl possessed by the demon Pazuzu in the first film. Now, Chris will be called upon to help another family whose child is possessed, possibly by the same evil force that tried to claim her daughter decades earlier. Joining Burstyn in the film is Hamilton breakout Leslie Odom Jr., who will play the father of the newly possessed child. Beyond those details, we don't know much yet, but Green's experience revisiting horror classics makes this a project to watch out for. The film is set to release on the very spooky date of Friday, the 13th of October, 2023. Well before his first Dune film was released in the fall of 2021, filmmaker Denis Villeneuve made it clear that he was aiming for multiple installments. His first film was just half of Frank Herbert's epic novel. Now, thanks to the first movie's success, Dune Part 2 is on its way, and it seems set to present something even grander than its predecessor. The original film's cast are all set to reprise their roles, save for the characters who didn't survive the first chapter. Joining them this time around are Florence Pugh, who will play Princess Rulon, Austin Butler as the Harkonnen fighter Feyd-Rautha, Christopher Walken as the Emperor Shaddam IV, and Léa Seydoux as Lady Margot. The film will pick up where the first installment left off, as Paul Atreides and his mother join the Fremen in their fight against the Harkonnen invasion of Arrakis.
My road leads into the desert. I can see it.
Dune Part 2 touches down on November 3rd, 2023. Aquaman's been part of the DC Extended Universe since 2016's Batman vs. Superman, but he really exploded in popularity back in 2018 when he finally got his very own big-screen solo adventure. An Aquaman sequel was previously slated for the 2022 holiday season, but now we'll have to wait an extra year to see Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. What exactly is the Lost Kingdom? We don't know for sure yet, but we do know that Jason Momoa's Aquaman will be teaming up with his disgraced half-brother Orm to fight the powerful Black Manta. We'll also see the return of Amber Heard as Mira, Temuera Morrison and Nicole Kidman as Arthur's parents, Willem Dafoe as Atlantean Vizier Vulko, and Randall Park as marine biologist Dr. Stephen Shin. Joining the cast for the first time are Johnny Sao, India Moore, and Pilou Asbæk. Plus, Ben Affleck will reprise his role as the Caped Crusader himself, Batman. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom will finally reveal its secrets on Christmas Day 2023. Martin Scorsese's next film is a highly anticipated reunion with two of his most frequent collaborators. The legendary director has cast both The Departed star Leonardo DiCaprio and Taxi Driver star Robert De Niro in key roles for Killers of the Flower Moon, his upcoming adaptation of the true crime book of the same name. Based on a true story, the film is set in 1920s Oklahoma and follows the investigations into a series of murders of Native Americans leading to the formation of the FBI. Also, prepare to see Jesse Plemons give the performance of his career as he'll play lead FBI investigator Tom White. Sadly, we'll have to wait a while before we can finally watch Killers of the Flower Moon. Though the film was originally expected to have a 2022 awards season run, Deadline reported that the release has been pushed back to sometime in 2023, probably to give the film a world premiere at a major film festival.